now call to order the November 27th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Board meeting. We now have a quorum. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir.
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Conflict of interest statement. In accordance with North Carolina Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflict of interest and appearance of conflict, and are instructed to refrain from participating in any matter coming before this board if there is a conflict of interest or appearance of such conflict. If a board member has a known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matter coming before this board today, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the matter involved. Does any member of the board have a conflict of interest in any matter coming before the board today? All right, is there a motion to approve the regular minutes of October 23rd, 2023?
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of October 23rd, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Old business, we have none. Residential. I will now turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, this is a conditional zoning request. The applicant on this particular project is Alex Bonda on behalf of Prestige Acquisitions. The owners of the property are Sunbeam Estates, LLC. This property is in Iredell County, so there will be a annexation application with this as well that will go before Town Council. The property is currently zoned RA in Iredell County, which is residential agriculture. The request is to rezone this property to the Town of Troutman CZRM, which is conditional mixed residential. The proposed use of the property is a 118-lot single-family residential subdivision, and as the chairman stated, the property is 34.8 plus or minus acres in size. This is on the overhead or the screen in front of you, you can see the location of the property. It's highlighted here in blue. It is located off of Highway 21 in this location. It's adjacent to the Rocky Creek, or what they're now calling Norman Creek, mixed-use development here on this side. Across the street, this gray is industrial. That's the Troutman Logistics project that has not developed. Here on the corner are the Redwood Apartments, just to give you an idea of where the property is located. This is the current zoning map for the town of Troutman. As you can see, the property is in the county and is not in our ETJ. Properties around this site are zoned medium density we have CZRM here to the south. There is industrial across the street, and then there's traditional RS zoning in this area. This is the future land use map for the town of Troutman. As you're very aware, this is a tool that we use to make land use decisions. This is a map that was approved by the planning board and adopted by the town council. The property in question this evening is shown as medium density residential. When we updated this map last fall, actually October of 2022, we did change the density on medium density residential to 2 to 3 units per acre. We also, in that ordinance, attached some zoning districts to the land use designations, and RS and RT zoning were attached to the medium density residential definition. This is a copy of the proposed site plan for the property. As you can see, there are 118 lots. The density on this project will be 3.2 units per acre. They are showing the required 10% open space, so they have complied with that. I want to point out too that this project does provide connectivity, which is a requirement of our ordinance. There's actually 3 connections in this project. It will connect to the first phase of Rocky Creek here. It will also have a connection to the second phase of Rocky Creek. If you all recall, phase 1 of Rocky Creek is a mixed-use project. There's townhomes in there, single family, as well as some commercial outparcels. Phase 2 is single family only, so it will have connections to both sides of that project. There's also going to be a connection here, which connects the property into the Tractor Supply site. So I did want to point out that Tractor Supply will be right here. This is located in the protected area of watershed in the town of Troutman. This will require approval of a high-density development permit. We've been handling those typically with a conditional zoning when those go before council. That's how we've been approving that permit. But I did want to point out that they will have to build on-site stormwater detention. As you can see, they are showing that on their site plan as well in these two locations. A TIA will be required for this project. It is currently being produced by the applicant, and I'm sure that they can answer any questions you may have about that TIA. After staff reviewed the application, we have looked at the land use map. We feel that the proposed overall density at 3.2 units per acre is slightly above the suggested maximum for medium density residential. However, due to the recent rezonings in this area of Norman Creek or Rocky Creek 1 and 2, which are at densities of 2.8 and 4.99 units per acre, we feel the proposal is consistent with the land use pattern in the area. This concludes staff's presentation and recommendation. If you have any questions, I'm very happy to address those. If not, the applicant is here this evening as well.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Lynn, or you want to, we'll just go ahead and, if not. Okay.
Okay. Well, first question is we typically require the TIA to be provided to the council, so that's been our policy. If council chooses to change that, then we will be we can require it before planning board. That has not happened. The other thing is we are currently working on the contract to hire a group to do the BRTIA consultant, so that is not in place yet. So the TIA that's being produced is being done by the applicant and their traffic engineers. The annexation is heard by council only, and so that will be done on the 14th along with this request and the planning board's recommendation. So it will be done at the same time. The land use map, yes, ma'am. It was brought before the planning board and town council.
Any other? It's 2 to 3 now. It's defined as that, and it was a little bit, it was more than that before.
I believe it was 3 to 4 previously.
Is there any other questions for Lynn at this point? Okay, would the applicant like to speak at this time?
Thanks, board members. My name is Alex Bonda with Prestige Corporate Development. I've got 4 slides. They're pretty much the same as Lynn's. Just a vicinity map showing the context, as you are aware, right off of Highway 21, just north of our Norman Creek development. Existing zoning, as Lynn pointed out, is RA, and we're proposing a conditional RM district. Future land use, and Lynn, I pulled the old future land use, which was 3 to 4 units an acre. But yes, this is slated for medium density residential. And as Lynn pointed out, we were following similar trends along Highway 21 with residential development. The site plan, we're proposing 118 44-foot wide lots, single-family detached, 7-foot side yards, 20-foot front yards, and 20-foot rear yards. At the entrance, you'll see there's a 2-acre commercial out parcel that will mimic what's been done in front of Tractor Supply, as well as our Norman Creek development to the south. Throughout the site, there's some common open space areas, some small pocket park areas. There is not a formal amenity space just due to the size of the development. 118 lots don't typically lend itself to an amenity with a pool or a clubhouse. So we've got some pocket park areas throughout with some bench seating. And then I just wanted to show, just for context, the area in green is our Norman Creek Phase 1. The area in yellow is what was called Crayjack, but it's Norman Creek Phase 2. And then our current plan here, the Sunbeam property, that would be its own development. It would not fall under the same HOA as Norman Creek. So they would not share the amenity that Norman Creek has. We proposed 44-foot wide lots on this one to help kind of give more, I guess, a wider array of product in the area. And when I say product, Norman Creek, there's townhomes, and then there's 40-foot wide homes and 50-foot wide homes. And then our Sunbeam property would be 30-foot wide homes. And that's really it. I'm here to answer any questions. And
I've got one, based on the concept plan you've got here with all three. It looks like Norman Creek, the entrance or the access point to this proposed site in Norman Creek doesn't line up. Is that correct?
so they will line up. The plan that I did for the Sunbeam plan that we're looking at tonight was based on GIS information. So they kind of, they're a little skewed between that and survey data. The Norman Creek plan has survey data. So there's always kind of a little bit of a bleed over.
So from Norman Creek, I can take all the way across through this site and then all the way to the other, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And since you have connectivity like you have, Norman Creek's TIA is really going to be modified to encompass this, right?
So it's as part of the TIA exercise, we're updating that as well.
Okay. And you're not going to have access to your own commercial site, just to the proposed Tractor Supply?
So the access to the commercial would come off of that main access road coming into the residential. I just didn't show a curb cut there, but it would feed off of that entrance road. So you wouldn't come in off of 21. You have to come in on that.
You could go in the back way instead of having to go out on 21 and come back around.
Right.
Okay. And you said this is conditional, right?
That's right. You would come in on that, yes, you come in on that main road and then you turn, I guess, right into the commercial. There's no connection to that one. There's a pretty decent sized creek that runs up the green property line going north, and then it kind of forks just like where you see the yellow and the red. It forks. So we would have to make a pretty big stream impact to make that connection. And there's already a connection between the Crayjack piece. You'll see a stub road at the southern portion of the Crayjack property that would stub to the Norman Creek as well.
Okay, so it is going to be continuous, not shown.
That's right. Yeah, we're in various stages of plan design, so it's a little tough.
And right now, there is only one access into the Norman Creek area off of 21, correct?
There's one off of 21 and then one off of Barkdale.
Okay.
You said that the TIA is being updated. That means Norman Creek has been completed, but now you're updating it because of this other TIA.
That's right. Well, we're updating it holistically, looking at all the different projects in this area.
So are you actually saying you're not sure that connection from Norman Creek to, because of the stream impact, will actually get done? Or are you saying you're just looking at impacts?
we just didn't stub, do you have a pointer? So, with our proposed project here, the way that the topography lays, your stormwater comes down to this point here. So we'll need that area for storm pond. And then you've got the creek here. It runs up north here, and it runs kind of northeast as well, which is why we didn't stub here or here. So we have a storm pond that will capture the majority of this, and then another storm pond down here that will capture this area. So you'll have, for the Crayjack piece, you've got a connection out to Byers, and then you have a crossing here into Norman Creek, and then there's a stub here that'll connect to Beam, stub here that connects to Beam. We have a stub that's connecting to the tractor supply here, as well as here, to kind of keep that flow through here. And then you've got your access on 21 and access off of Barkdale.
And so there's, even at the upper part, there's not really a way to make a connection up there, stream there too?
That's right. There's some wetlands and stream impacts that would occur up there.
Okay. Now, the application said there was 34.8 acres. This says there's 36.8 acres. And the calculation to get 3.2 units per acre is including the 2 acres of commercial property that's not on the application to start with.
So the commercial property is part of the entire property. When we looked at this, we looked at the entire property to do that calculation. We didn't subtract the commercial from there.
Well, your application is not for 36.8. I've got a copy of the application in here. It's 34.8.
Is there I don't know
Right
if
here's
there
a copy of it.
Okay.
If you
acreage. We've also got a boundary survey that was just completed. So we'll
I think you amended it to the 36.8, and I think that's what was included in the, I don't want to misspeak. No, it was 34.8, yeah.
Okay.
what is it?
Well,
The 34.8 is what I was reflecting on the staff report, but I guess we just need to update that and make sure that it reflects.
right.
Well, it
Well-
would be 3.4 units per acre if you take that off, which I don't see why you would take commercial property and figure density for the residential. That's kind of skewing the product here, and I did a calculation. It said 44 by 100 was your lot size,
Minimum.
and that's a tenth of an acre, just barely over a tenth of an acre.
Mm-hmm.
And
Those are minimum. So when we put together these rezoning plans, we're asking for the minimum in case there's a restricted lot that might come about that might go below what would otherwise be a requested minimum. So if I were to say, 44 feet by 130 feet deep, and we had a restricted lot, like, maybe in this corner here, we're just asking for that minimum 100-foot depth as a just in case.
okay, it says typical residential lot details, what it says, 44 by 100.
Mm-hmm.
So most of them probably will be that.
So they're drawn at 45 by 120 feet. So we add a foot to the widths. And we've done this on several rezonings in the past in Troutman to ask for the minimum. We do this, there's different product types that different builders have that vary slightly. So it helps to ask for that minimum in order to have a little bit of wiggle room for that product.
Yeah, and I mean, the 2 to 3 units per acre was changed because felt like that's what it needed to be. And it seems like it's pretty common for people to try to go over that, but I think that should be pretty much, it should be in that range, I feel like, personally. And not count the commercial. And a third of an acre or 3 units per acre is 14,520 square feet. The lot size is minimum 4,400. And I didn't see much on what the houses were going to look like. Building materials was very vague.
So no, we in our conditional notes, no vinyl as a primary siding, just windows and soffits. But there would be a mix of hardy stone, brick. Again, that helps with having some variation in how the homes look, as well as some flexibility for builders to work within those parameters.
There's not like a minimum number of variable materials to use on the front facade. I don't see anything about that. I know you're probably going to change it, but it could have one thing, the way it's written. And does it have an attached garage?
Yes, they would likely have an attached garage. Just due to that product size, they would be attached.
Okay, it doesn't state that in here. And on the commercial, it references the Grace building shall be the example.
I think that was a typo that we'll need to change.
That was a copy and paste
A little bit.
from another. And is there going to be a sidewalk on 21?
I believe that would be a requirement. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That's a requirement.
Sidewalks, we will definitely look at that and make sure which side of the street it needs to be on. And if it's required, we will make sure that happens when they go through plan review.
Okay. Now, in interior, is there going to be sidewalks on one side or both sides of the street?
Both sides.
Okay, that probably should be added.
I think
That is an ordinance requirement.
Okay. And I do have a question on streetscape lighting, landscape. I'm not sure exactly what this means. The last sentence on the first, it's item 3. It says developer shall become responsible for monthly costs once the public roadways are accepted for maintenance. Does that mean lighting, or what does that mean? I'm not sure.
That's just the HOA will maintain certain aspects outside of the right of way along the road.
It doesn't say what they're responsible for. It just says become responsible. It looks like something's been took out of the.
Okay, we can clarify that.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I was just curious. I know it was on the agenda last month. What improvements or changes from what was going to be presented last month that you're presenting this month?
So we delayed due to needing the annexation plat prepared, and rather than coming in front of you all and then, I guess deferring to the following month's council, we decided to just defer initially so that there wasn't a gap.
And when is the expected TIA gonna be due?
There should be a draft due prior to the council meeting.
Do you have any of that or not yet?
I don't have a draft with me today, no.
Okay, anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I now open the meeting up for public comment. Anyone would like to speak will need to sign in at the roster. Okay, Kim, did you get anything? Okay, thank you. I will now close the public comment time. Are there any comments from the board?
I have one. I also had a question about the acreage that Chairman Farmer pointed out. I was also concerned because then if you further reduce the acreage down by taking into consideration the common open space that's been set aside for the retention ponds and the pocket parks, then you are looking at increased dwellings per acreage. Then it goes up to 3.76, which is also outside of our medium density guidelines.
I took it backwards and said, if you got 34.8, multiply it by 3 as our maximum unit, you get 105, rounding up for that. And I think they're asking for 118.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if you were to go 13 less to meet that, I mean, I'm just making an observation.
Just to build on Karen's point, they are required to have an amount of open space that would detract from your number.
I mean, I'm just trying to look at it from a different point of view. But your SEM or the erosion control stuff, that's a given that you have to have. I mean, you can make those into more, not of a amenity center, but, you know, something that you could, a walking trail around it or something like that, that you can encompass other things to it to help include in an open space as options.
Yeah, I just mean to say I did the same calculation, so 104, right? And then you take per amount off of that, it drops even further. Like, what's the open space acreage?
Open space, it's 1.84 active open space. Common space is 3.68.
Hey, yes. I hate to say I'm getting old. This is called fine print.
And also something to think about, the associated zoning districts is RS, which is suburban residential, and RT town residential, and they are actual half-acre for suburban residential, and town residential are quarter-acre minimum lots. So that's what's recommended for this medium density. The lots are actually minimum of looks like about 1/10 of an acre. Which I realize some of them are bigger than that. The public comment time is over.
I'm new, I just wanted to say something in regard to this, so I missed it.
Well,
This project up here.
well,
We've
it's
never done it before, so we kinda missed the link.
we've kind of closed that section. I'm sorry. Would y'all be willing to reduce the number of lots? And are you able to say what you can do?
So a lot, Mark probably knows this better than most, but there's there's a lot that goes into adding and subtracting lots. We'd have to go back and look at how our numbers work on our forma, because ultimately we develop and sell these lots to builders. So if there's a reduction in lots, it can either drastically hurt the project or the project support for us. So that's something we can explore. I just can't give you a number of how many lots we could pull out tonight.
Okay. I mean, you were aware when you did this project that it was what, 2 to 3 units per acre? Yeah, sure.
Kind of speaking back to what Lynn presented earlier, we're aware of what's been approved through Troutman as far as future land use densities. But as she pointed out, this proposed development kind of falls in line with the development pattern along 21. So we went ahead with that.
And that's probably also why the change was made, was because it was becoming too dense. That's why that definition was changed, and the public had input to this, so that's what the public actually requested. So there's public input to this.
Okay.
That's my take on that.
Sure. If I could speak for 1 second on subtracting the open space and the SEMs, I believe the intent of medium density was to cluster. So in order to cluster homes together, you're going to create these areas of open space and storm water control measures. So if we were to keep reducing the size of the development as far as lot sizes, you're increasing the open space, but if you're going to subtract that from the calculation, your density is still going to kind of keep at about the same rate. To Mark's point, we've always looked at it as calculating it from the entirety of the property and then multiplying, or I guess dividing that into the number of lots.
I'm also looking at it, he's provided a 50-foot buffer instead of the minimum buffer around the perimeter. He's got a 100-foot buffer around, or plus, around the streams, excuse me, so to help protect the buffering between communities as well. So I think that's part of the extension of the density going up. As a concession, I'm asking, with the 95 or 93 that, and then the 118 that is proposed, the compromise is to go average between the twos, 104 to 105, which would make us at 3 lots per acre, which would fall in the general ordinance of that.
Right.
Would you consider that?
We can explore that. We will look into that and see,
Okay.
and if the project still works at that number.
Any other questions, comments?
Well, how we could consider this when we don't know how many they're going to try to build? We're going to consider this, they're going to consider this, they're going to consider this, they're going to consider this. If
We could put
don't
a-
have clue what we're doing here. How we going to know it?
Good question.
And I also think that there's been in the past where town council got that TIA like the night before the meeting, and I don't think that's fair to them.
Okay.
Could y'all please speak into your mics? I think the audience is having a hard time hearing.
Oh, sorry.
Should we repeat what we were saying? Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, so I guess we need to know how many that you're proposing to do, how many lots you're going to do before we can vote on it. And it sounds like we could, if we postpone this till next time, you could maybe even bring the TIA, so we'd have enough information maybe to do it. I don't think we have enough information.
Unfortunately, tabling it, a recommendation from the planning board has to go to council within 30 days of receiving the application. So once you guys receive the packet, you have 30 days to send that recommendation. So it really, you couldn't table this to the next meeting unless
I've never understood how that works.
it's a state statute.
Unless the applicant's willing to do that.
It's completely up to Alex.
I would prefer if there was a recommendation tonight on what's been presented.
Was that a motion, Mr. General?
Are we ready to make a motion?
Is there any more discussion? I guess we have an option of we can still make recommendations to things we'd want to see. We've done that in the past. A list of things that we'd want to see if it were to pass. You know what I'm saying? Yes.
Are we ready for?
Okay. Is there a motion regarding CZRM 23-03?
I'd like to make a motion that we wait until we get the information that's required before we do it.
You can't, you gotta do,
We can't do that.
you gotta do this one.
Or we,
I gave him one to do.
Just so we're clear, and Barry's, what Barry's ultimately wanting is if this is turned down, council turns it down, they're free to come back with a proposal that meets all the requirements that Randy's asking for, and go through this again, right?
They would have to wait, I believe it's 12 months to reapply. Unless the application is significantly different.
or they can pull it before it goes to town council.
Correct.
All right, let me ask this question. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
If we were to put a condition on it, saying that this is presented, provided that the TIA is correct and it is reviewed, because we don't know about that, that's out of our hands. But if we were to put a lot size and a lot number on it, to where you said it not to exceed X number of lots.
That won't work because they have to agree to it.
But I mean,
If they said right now they would agree to it, we can do that. But if,
but I'm just, do what?
He's saying he can't do that.
I'm just going, he said he could consider it, but then he's got a choice of trying to, I can make it, let's just say 105, I'm just picking a number. If he said 105, if he can make it work, then he's gonna push through and he can present it to council in a week, whenever council is, and move forward. If he doesn't, and it's denied, and he has to take the chance of council denying it, he has to wait another 12 months, which means he's gonna have a whole lot more headache than that, because time is money. So I'm asking, would we be willing to look at a number and ask him to do it? Because he knows that he can either meet this one or take his chances with council, and he's got options still, correct?
And Just to clarify too, you all can make a recommendation, because that's what it is. It's just a recommendation. So if you want to recommend to council that they consider approving it, excuse me, with 105 lots, staff will present that as part of your recommendation. Now, Alex can still present his 118 lots, and then it would be up to council to decide which way they want to go. So if you wanted to attach that, there's no harm in doing that. And then Alex can go back to the drawing board, see if it works. If it doesn't, then at the council meeting, he can say, look, I really tried, but I'm asking for the 118. And then the decision ultimately is up to town council.
Thank you.
So the acreage, I was going back and looking at the boundary survey. It is 36.86 acres, which is where we came up with the 36.8. So when we do the survey, we're not carving that out. It's just the entire property that exists today.
But that's a different use, so I don't think it should be included in the 32. I mean,
agree.
I'm not gonna be okay with that.
That's fine. I just wanted to just give you an update on the acreage.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
before we vote,
Or make a
or
motion.
make a motion,
Well, there is a
let's-
motion.
no, he
On
didn't
the
make it.
floor.
He never made it.
We were still vacillating at that point.
He didn't.
He didn't complete it.
That's
He
right.
started on it.
He didn't finish it. Do you want us to
Okay.
vote on that one?
Nobody seconded it.
He can withdraw it.
Oh, withdrawn.
Okay.
Do we want to, as a council, a committee, come up with a number? You want to do some math right now and look at a feasible number?
I'm good with making
Recommendation.
a recommendation of a number, but I'm not, they do have to agree on it, so I'm not real crazy about approving something with a number that they hadn't agreed to.
But it's a recommendation that then it's for council.
Yeah.
They would have to agree if council requires it. You all are just making a recommendation. So he technically, if you all say, we want council to consider 105 lots, he could let council know that, you know, this doesn't work for me. That was planning board's recommendation, but I can't agree to that. I've tried to make it work. So that would, I mean, it is difficult for him to make that decision tonight, and it is
I
difficult for
understand
you to
that.
try to, you know, come up with a number that you all would be happy with. So
It kind of puts it in a bad spot when you say we can't carry it over.
I guess one
And
thing.
we don't have, being fair to him, he can't make that decision on the spur of the moment
Right.
unless he had already prepared to do that.
Well, my advice would be is to try to just focus on the use. And do you all think this is an appropriate location for this use? And is the density being proposed something that you all are comfortable with? Because that's really the task before you this evening, is to make those types of decisions.
And there's also some clarification I'd like to see on the housing and what materials. Okay, we got minimum of so many materials, which this can get to be a long.
And you could definitely request of the applicant that he provide, you know, a better list of those materials with percentages, and we could present that to council. That could definitely be a condition.
What I'm concerned about is, okay, let's make sure that we're gonna put multiple things on the front so that it looks nice. And maybe specify how the garage is gonna be set, is it gonna be set back, or how's that gonna be done? That sort of thing, and that it does require at least a single garage.
You too.
Two?
Gotta have two.
That's right.
I
Her and
don't,
her two-car garage.
I got a question for you. Is that a possibility of a two-car garage or single? What are you looking at?
It comes down to product. It comes down to which builder we end up choosing. Typically with those 30-foot products, the majority of them are double garages.
Okay.
However, there are some products out there with single car garages, so there's the possibility of both, or a mix.
Or a percentage of a mix or something?
We could look at that, yeah.
Okay.
I have one more thing.
Yeah.
I just have a issue with not getting town council, the TIA in a timely manner. I mean, giving it to them the night before is not fair to them.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think with, right now, that bullet has left the gun for this one. But I'd like to make a motion on your behalf later for new business, to have it, ask council to see if they can have it presented to us before it goes to council.
I thought we talked about that last year, and my memory's not as good as it used to be. And I thought somehow that was like, couldn't be done or something.
I believe it was discussed, and I don't, it didn't go anywhere. We did decide, I'm sorry? Which I think we did. I just don't think that went anywhere. We did decide through the budget process to bring a company on to help us with this TIA process, and I think that's how council wanted to focus, was to try to bring someone in who's representing the town and producing those TIAs for us. So that's what we're working on right now, and we're getting hopefully that group will be at the agenda briefing in December to present that to council, and we can hopefully move on that and get things in place by the first of the year.
You're good with all that. What do you want a percentage?
Well, it would put us in the driver's seat with the TIA
What would
process,
that
yes.
percentage be?
And
When
we
we
could
discuss
choose,
that?
or council can choose however they want to handle that going forward.
Okay, our,
I'm just curious, you had mentioned some other concerns with the architectural and as was presented in the document.
the number of building materials, required building materials, some of them, I know in the past have had shutters, and I don't know if we wanna go that far, but, multiple materials, varying materials on the front facade.
Mm-hmm.
On single-family residential, you can regulate it through the conditional zoning process only. We cannot put those requirements in our ordinance for materials, colors, anything that has to do with architecture. We can't regulate on single-family housing except through this CZ process. We do for multifamily, we do for commercial, but for single-family, we cannot write it into the ordinance by state statute.
In the past, I don't remember the exact number. We could look at one, but, there's some in here. I don't have the latest version, or, Lynn may know off the top of her head, I don't know. The way that was worded more so in as far as the front facade, different materials, the number, that sort of thing.
Well, one thing you could do that you know, you could just state that either you want like a water table of either stone or brick 18 inches around the bottom of the house. That's one way to do it. You could state that you want at least 25% of the front facade to have stone or brick or another type of material on it. You can state that you want the garage to be set back 3 feet from the front elevation. That those are typical things. You can basically, I think Alex has already agreed to no vinyl except on, you know, windows and faucets or is that the soffits. That's something that you could definitely require. I'm trying to think of anything else. Shutters, I think that's a good idea. If you want porches on the front, sometimes I know we have had that conversation. I don't know if that was with you guys with a particular project or not. Sometimes builders are okay with that, and sometimes developers prefer not to have that requirement, but you could at least require like a stoop or something covering the front door and the front porch. I think that that's something that would be good to include.
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, a lot of times we do have a rendering of what this is going to look like, and we have nothing other than this description, which is...
Yeah, and a lot of times I think what's happening in some of these projects that I've been involved with in the town is the developer brings the project to you all, and they really don't know who the builder is going to be. So it's hard for them to provide you with elevations, and they don't want to get in a situation where things are changing. So it's almost better to just have the materials and say this is what we want this to be included in every home.
Thank you. And do we have a number of percentage or something we'd like to see 2-car garage versus 1 car, or all of them, or a percent? Okay.
Well, you have some irregular lots that may or may not, with the product that is being done, it may warrant or limit it to a single car garage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just,
But if they reduce the number,
I mean, if you were to
They
say 95% or 90%, 80% be 2-car garage, that would give them the latitude that they could put it in those locations. I'm just, you know, you're saying all or none is kind of difficult.
I'll do a percentage. I'm good with 90%.
and if they reduce the number of lots, they can work with some of the irregular lots and make them bigger to make it work better.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a number?
Of lots?
Yeah, that we're comfortable with?
I got 104.4, so round it up to 105. Does that work?
I'm rounding it the other way.
4 is,
But if we take out the other discussion that Karen had, then it drops pretty significantly.
Yeah.
I mean, 93 is a pretty good number there.
I took the median between the two, which is just straight out, not 104.4. 104? That's fine with me. I'm just trying to keep it going. As a,
I mean, like I said, it feels arbitrary if we don't know what the exact number of lots have on that area. It's not our purview to worry about the school system and other stuff.
Right.
That all has a pretty big impact on the city.
so it's 69 to 104 when you go by 2 to 3 units. That's when you're calculating, not calculating the commercial, which I don't think should be included.
I agree.
So their range is 69 to 104 to be within that. So what? Well, they are doing some things like Mark stated. They are connecting some things together, and
I like the buffer around it being 50 foot instead of the 25 or whatever the type buffer. They used a 50-foot buffer and a 100-foot buffer around the streams to help that?
The number that Randy's referencing though still includes all those.
Yeah, that's including all.
That's the total amount.
That's the total.
I like having all the amendments because then it's on record for town council.
Mhm.
And they have a clear understanding of what our expectations are.
Cool.
I agree. So, what are we comfortable with as a number? We got something we can all agree on.
104 or 105, right?
Well, that's at 3. That's the max.
That's maxing it.
Well, you've got the other surrounding ones that are above the 3.
One of them. The other one's 2 point something.
Right. 2.8.
2.8 or 9 or something like that.
So Mark, just to be clear for myself, because I don't really know which direction you're going there, does that mean this should be lower to decrease the density in that area to be an average, or do you want to bring it up to meet the surrounding properties?
No, I was bringing it down because right now the maximum's from 2 to 3, so I just took the 3 lots, divided it into the total square acreage. And
Understood, but he's saying, hey, 3 is maxing, and you said the surrounding properties are above it now, 3 point something.
I'm just keeping it at the 3.
So I'm thinking to myself, that you don't want to max it out at 3 if the others are already 3.8. You're already taxing the roads in that area, the infrastructure in that area. You would be better off shooting under the maximum,
But the
compensate for what's already been done there.
correct, but yet the TIA that's supposed to be presented is supposed to alleviate the pressures of this, this, so that you don't have the impacts that you should.
Well, I'm thinking other utilities.
I can't, yeah.
And under 100, they don't have to do a TIA, do they?
No. The threshold's much lower. I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's much. Andrew, what's the threshold? 39? 50. 50
Okay.
lots.
So I would like to see it less than that, but I would definitely want to see it within that. So I don't know how everybody else. I know you were saying you're good with 104.
I was just trying to, by the letter of the law, looking at by our ordinance, we have a 2 to 3. Naturally, as a developer, he's going to push the limits to the highest amount. Based on his topography and what he can develop for the parcel, he can physically get more than that. So if he reduces it to the maximum amount allowable at 3, then he has met his obligation as well as what our maximum or minimum standards you want to look at it as to do it, and met the code.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to look at. I mean, I don't want to.
My personal feelings aside, I agree with Mark that when you say 2 to 3, the guy that is trying to maximize the profits is going to push it to the 3.
Mm-hmm.
And pushing it over.
And it's allowable.
And I don't
Allowable.
think I need to penalize him for his neighbor that got a 3.8.
Well,
Even though his was the.
I didn't go that far, but I would say that it's in, the ordinance says that he can go that high. My personal feelings aside, that's what it is.
I think the TIA is he's gonna spend a lot of money on this TIA, not improvements wise.
So 104, I'm okay with that.
And just a comment on the TIA too. What the TIA does is it does show traffic numbers, but it also really is being used to show what improvements that the TIA requires. So, it'll show they need to put a light in or turn lanes in or whatever's needed for the project based on that traffic impact. But ultimately, DOT has the authority to approve those improvements. So I don't think we can sit here and even if we have those traffic numbers say, well, we want you to put in, 5 new turn lanes down at 77 interchange. So, even without the TAA, I really think the focus needs to be on, is this use appropriate here? Is the density, if are you guys comfortable with that density, or you really want to stick to that land use plan? I think that's really what we need to focus on in making that decision, because the TAA, like I said, I
Just to clarify my point, I mean, it's not about asking us to do any road improvements as much as it is seeing the impact through what improvements are recommended, right? This property has on the surroundings on Troutman. It's not about asking them to do more necessarily. As somebody that goes from Troutman to 77 right by this every single day, like every one of those improvements is not necessarily improved my drive to work.
I don't think we've seen any of them yet. I don't think we've seen any of them.
Well, there's
Just got
one,
some
the autumn
other
leaf
examples.
and the light,
Autumn Leaf hasn't started. That project is going to start next year.
right,
So really, we haven't.
improvement done there this year.
I don't think. I don't.
Turn lane that
Okay.
goes into Autumn Leaf. That one's made a marginal difference if you're headed to Troutman, and it's not really done anything.
I don't think any of the improvements that approved just with any of these projects have even started, because none of these projects have started.
This far now.
That's a different
So
project,
you're
I
talking about the
think.
left-hand turn lane to Autumn Leaf. Yeah.
So, again, I'm sorry, Alex, what was the survey acreage again? One more time, I apologize.
No, you're good. It's 36.86.
And that did include the commercial?
Yes, it's just the
Okay.
entire property in the application.
Okay.
And just so you know, too, with CZRM, this zoning classification that he's requesting does allow, with your approval, up to 12 units per acre. And that was something that was approved, by planning board and council as part of the UDO.
But that's because it's under other land areas and possibility you may use it because it's been used for a lot of different
I'm not arguing
things.
either way. I just want to point that out, that is in the ordinance, because people mention, ordinances and densities.
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to look at the other, they have to put half to quarter acre lots, actual lots.
Current zoning, correct. The way it's currently zoned, yes.
And by the recommended medium density zoning that's in
That's land use.
the land
Yeah.
use, yeah. So this is way more than that.
Agreed.
Okay. Do we have this? Or we got more questions before we start?
104.
Okay.
Yes?
I agree.
Okay. Barry,
Are we ready?
are you ready?
No, I'm not ready. I've got the list.
All right, well, aren't we done talking about it?
Please.
They please.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right. With regarding case number CZ-RM-23-03, recommend approval of rezoning with amendments. I'm letting Kim catch up to me here.
Hoping you took good notes.
TIA is presented to council in advance. Dwellings are reduced to a total of 104. With regards to architectural and other structural elements, there will be multiple facade materials, %90 of the homes will have a two-car garage. The garage will be set back 3 feet from the front of the house. Shutters will be required on the front of the house. There will be a covered front entry. And the water table must be covered in some type of material so as not to be left bare concrete.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we need a motion regarding consistency statement of CZRM 2303.
With regards to case number CZRM-2303, I make a motion regarding consistency of this action, that the requested rezoning is consistent with the Troutman strategic plan and the future land use map with amendments, as it will serve to guide residential development in the scale and density prescribed in these policy documents by allowing appropriate medium-density residential development and their customary accessory uses. Finally, the requested rezoning is considered reasonable and in the public interest as it proposes to allow the retention of residential development in areas of Troutman where appropriate.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Case number RZ 23-08 is 379 and 381 Murdoch Road. Request to rezone 43 plus or minus acres located at 379 and 381 Murdoch Road on the north side of Murdoch Road from town of Troutman suburban residential to town of Troutman light industrial. I will now turn it over to Lynn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a traditional rezoning, so it is not conditional, so there's no site plan that's been included with this request. The applicant this evening is Leon Bowens Jr. The property is owned by Charlie R. Mills, and it's currently zoned suburban residential. It is in the town's ETJ, so this property will have to be annexed as well. Something that's a little different with ETJ is the council can do the rezoning before the annexation if they choose, since it is in our zoning jurisdiction. The applicant is requesting that the property be rezoned to light industrial. This is a traditional zoning again, so no site plan was required with the application. The property size is about 43 plus or minus acres. On the overhead and on the screens in front of you is a location map. This does include more than one parcel. You can see them highlighted in red. This is Murdoch Road in this area. This is the Walmart distribution center here. So it's just across the street. I do want to point out that these two parcels were previously rezoned for the North Fork Business Park, and this is the same applicant, so I wanted everyone to understand that. This is our current zoning map. As you can see, this property here in this area is all zoned suburban residential in the town of Troutman. We have LI and HI here, or excuse me, conditional HI, and then across the street where the Walmart distribution center is, there's also heavy industrial zoning as well. The future land use map that was updated in October of 2022 does show, or excuse me, December of 2022, does show this area as employment center. The zoning district that was attached to that land use as part of the definition was light industrial, which is what the applicant is requesting this evening. Based on the future land use map that shows the future land use as employment center, light industrial is consistent with what the applicant is requesting and what the future land use map shows. So staff would recommend approval. based on that and other current rezonings in the area for industrial zoning as well. That's the end of staff's presentation. The applicant is here as well this evening, and I believe has a presentation for you, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Anyone have any questions before the applicant comes up? Okay, if the applicant would come up and give their presentation.
Good evening. I'm Sam Barnett. I'm the broker for the applicant. Don't have a presentation. Simply just wanted to state, as you all know, we had rezoned the property to the west to heavy industrial, conditional zoning heavy industrial, and the property north of that to light industrial. We had reduced from heavy to light for that second rezoning. We received a lot of response from the neighbors that they really didn't want heavy industrial zoning. We listened to that. We decided to change our plans and make something more accommodating, less impactful. So we've decided to do the same here with this application. Instead of going for heavy industrial, which is what we would prefer, we want to go ahead and compromise and reduce to a light industrial use to be more accommodating, even though right across the street's a heavy industrial, obviously, with the Walmart distribution center. So that's the only thing I have. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant at this time? All right, thank you so much. I will now open the meeting up for public comment. Anyone who would like to speak will need to sign in at the roster. And I want to first, the gentleman here that was asking a question. You.
That was a reference to the previous project.
Well, okay.
Well, it's already been voted on, so it really doesn't matter, right?
No, but if you have,
But,
if you want to know how the process works and any questions, and we're glad to help you with that.
You want me to go up to it?
And yes, and town council, you can speak at town council. We make recommendations, like for
Okay.
the one before, if you want to speak on it, you can certainly go to town council and speak.
Not tonight.
Not
No,
tonight.
but you can go ahead and,
do you have a question
you have
on
a
how the process
question.
works?
No, the only comment I have is, I don't know how many have kids or grandkids in schools here, but we keep adding all this housing and no schools, and it's insane if you got kids or grandkids in these schools. So is any thought going into that? Because the schools aren't being built. And it's a serious issue if you got kids or grandkids in these schools. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
all right, thank you. And you may, if you want to speak to town council, you can speak to them on that.
Okay.
And, yeah, the 14th of December.
Okay, thank you.
It's 7, yeah, it's at 7, not 6. And, as far as schools, if you want to speak to that, just, give him a little, since he asked that. I know that doesn't pertain to this, but.
Well, the county builds schools, and when we receive applications, we do send them copies for comment, but really just to let them know that this type of development or there's a development proposed, and we ask for comment. Like I said, we as a town, that's not something that's in our purview. We can't make decisions about schools. That's something that our Dallas Statesville school system does. But we do try to, keep them informed as to what's being built in the town, and what's happening, so that they can make, decisions that they need to make.
Challenge is you guys make decisions here and they don't make decisions over there, and then the kids suffer, frankly. But thank you.
All right. Now, is there any public comment regarding this case? Oh.
My name is Jessica Williams, and my comment is that when is this gonna end, basically? I mean, first, they came in and they said, okay, we're gonna do, I don't know, 150,000 square foot industrial park in 38 acres. Now, it's approved that they got another 40 acres on the back of it. So now what is it? Twice that. Now they're gonna encroach and go onto the side of that. So now it's gonna be what, 1 million square foot industrial factory back there, and you've got all this residential around it. Okay, you see the blue, you see the light gray back there, and then you see that red outlined area. That's all of their project. And those tiny little 4-5 squares right in front of Murdoch Road, that's all residential. So now we're completely encroached upon. It was all residential until they pretty much went past that heavy industrial line and said, oh, okay, now we're gonna make it to where this area is very consistent with heavy industrial. Not to note the fact that he did the Walmart plant too. So that's just another thing. Let's add it on to heavy industrial that we're saying that that's consistent with this area. It's majority green. So my thing is, does Troutman have the infrastructure to support this? Let's say, what is it going to be, 1 million square foot industrial park? I mean, and the traffic, the TIA, what's the report on that going to be? I don't even know if we actually got a true report on the first 40 acres that they were trying to zone that got rezoned. You know, now this part of it is encroaching on the residents on the other side of Murdoch Road. So for me and my family and a couple other neighbors back here, we're completely encircled now by industrial park. I mean, all 180 of my property, basically. And then you have people like this, the developers coming in. First of all, I don't even know, we've never even heard really from the developer. We always hear from the real estate agent. Why can't we ever hear any questions answered from the developer himself? Because the real estate agent is gonna dip out as soon as this gets built, make his money, and then he's leaving. He's out of here. So this is very concerning to me. It's very concerning to the residents that live around here. Nobody seems to care about the people that live in this area because it's, for whatever reason, we just want to get rid of these people. But where is the, how do the residents get factored into this? I mean, does the town of Troutman just say, we just don't care about anybody that lives in this area? We're just going to make our money and approve all of these projects? And who knows what's going into these buildings, and we don't really care? Because I can tell you right now, they do construction out here well into the night, way past 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock. They're out there. So it's impacting my family's way of living. It's a very real concern. And this is a huge, huge project that you're just leaving residents of Troutman in the middle of to say, we don't really care. So the traffic is an issue, the infrastructure is an issue, pollution, lights, pretty much everything. The noise is going to be an issue. It's all concerning. It's all very concerning. So that's my 2 cents in it, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
You're supposed to sign this first.
Yes, please, and state your name.
Okay. My name is Gene Reese. I'm from Mount Airy, and I own, Lynn, if you could point it out, I own the land adjacent or right below from that point all the way across Murdoch Road to Hoover Road, 43 acres also. And I've, again, I live in Mount Airy. That was my mother's home place. And I want to speak about 2 or 3 things. It may take me 4 or 5 minutes to do this, but number one, the viewpoint, I'm really opposed to this. I think this is a really bad mistake, both for Troutman and also for the residents. And I'm a developer, by the way, so I get it. I understand the process. But first of all, I want to talk to her about the citizen viewpoint, and secondly, about an individual property owner viewpoint. I'm not here to complain about ETJs. ETJs are wonderful. I understand the authority granted by 160D, I think it is, in the state statutes. But it's important for Troutman to have an orderly expansion plan. And you get a lot of pressure from Charlotte. I understand all that stuff, and I really appreciate the town having an ETJ and having and your long-range development plan. Compliments on that. I will say on the land use plan, I think the flaw in it is to develop this one area of Murdoch Road. And I think what I would ask you, I think this application needs to be turned down. And after it's turned down, I would ask that the commissioners or the planning board, I'm not sure of the process, to go back and re-review the light industrial designation or light industrial intent for this part of the county that's identified in that land use plan. And the reason I think the land use plan marked this for light industrial, one reason I think it's not desirable for the town of Troutman, and again, I'm just speaking as a citizen viewpoint, not me individually. You know, the light industrial, I think, is a suboptimal use for that land. It doesn't provide enough density of property value. There's no guarantee of employment. There's, for example, on my land, you know, it doesn't permit high-density, high-level housing, for example. And you've got this land shoehorned between Wakefield, I think it is at Barium Springs, which is spectacular, by the way, and Hoover Road, which is a good residential area. And stuffed right in between there is an industrial site. And I'm not sure if the land use plan were being done today and the land use planners had view of those two residential areas, that they would stuff an industrial area right in the middle of it. I'm not sure that would be a good plan for the town. And next, let me go to my fifth point here. I think that the town of Troutman would be better served to have a confined, dedicated industrial park that has industrial development contained within that park that does not have the haphazard nature of the industrial development along Murdoch Road. Because the poor residents on Murdoch Road don't know what's coming next, because it's just creeping and eventually it'll eat up this whole area. Talking about density, and I was really opposed to the Walmart development. I did come down here and speak, but I'm not going to set the town on fire over it. But I just thought that was a mistake for this community. But the density, as good as the Walmart development is, you know, it's a $65 million project. The tax value per acre, even at $65 million, the tax value per acre is $436,700. You know, I looked at some of the developments I do up in, not that Mount Airy does things right, but I look at the last 3 projects I've done. The one we're working on now, the tax value per acre is $15,300 per acre tax value. The one before that is $9,580,845 per acre. The one before that, $10,566,000 per acre. So my point to Troutman is you can do better than this. You know, to get light industrial that has low density development, no guaranteed of housing, and it certainly doesn't give you a lot of doesn't give you a lot of bang for the buck. You have to provide all these city services for a fairly low value for a giant displacement of land. And I just think that's a very, very bad mistake for the town. And I'm not being critical of anything. I just think it's a flaw in the land use plan. My next point, let's see where I am right here. You know, again, I would ask that I think this application should be either turned down or postponed, or to whatever extent it could be delayed until this land use plan, at least this part of the land use plan, gets to be reviewed again. Now, speaking from the individual standpoint as a property owner, again, I very much respect, understand, and like ETJ enforcement by the city, or not enforcement, but forced compliance by the town. I understand that, but the difficult for a property owner, for example, on my land, I've spoken to Lynn about it. I own 43 acres here, and I, done some of this kind of work, or do some of this kind of work. And could I build high-density, high-level housing on my land? No, I can't do it under this particular zoning. It's not permitted for me. So I have, as a developer or a property owner, my only choice to ever, if I want to develop my land, is to make it light industrial or heavy industrial or put a single-family housing in. Well, obviously, that's not going to work, just like the young lady who spoke. I obviously would not put one-half-acre lot-size houses in the middle of an industrial park that surrounded me. So my options as a property owner are very limited. So it forces me to do a less than desired use with my land because of what's being imposed around me. The second point is I could stay and just own this farm and put up with the issues of the traffic issues and all the issues of living around a full industrial, basically industrial area all around me. And third, I've become a difficult neighbor, and that's not me as a person, but neighbors who live in this area should not feel that their life's being imposed on by, and I would say this about these developers, I would say it about myself, but I think the folks who live in this area do have a right to live without having this type of imposed development put on them to change their life. You know, they've been there, some of these people have been here for generations, and they're being denied the right to really keep their farm or house in a condition. And let me jump back to the development one more time. In terms of development, the developers might disagree with this, but light industrial development, warehouse type development, it would look good. Maybe it looks good when it's built, but you fast forward 50 years, and you see historic buildings that look good after 50 years. And an industrial development does not look good after 50 years. We're working on a 9-acre industrial site right now. And, you know, as an example, you know, the new construction in that industrial site, we had to tear down. The rest of it, we're developing. And for what it's worth, it's building out to be $65 million, by the way, just coincidentally the same amount here. But it's on 9 acres. It's not on 160 acres, whatever it is. But these buildings, I don't think, age well, and I think it's unfair to these neighbors to be subjected, not necessarily them, but their children, to live in a part of town or part of the county here that has buildings that don't age as well or age much faster than their homes age. You know, for me, I mean, the decisions I'll make, if this particular, where I border this mills on 2 or 3 sides there and border the Walmart on 2 sides, and if this happens, I mean, what would this do for me? I'm 72 years old, and I will be denied the right to develop it as I think it should be developed to be fair to all the people in the neighborhood and to the people of Troutman. I won't develop it into industrial. I could either sell it out, or I'll probably put mine in a conservation easement, and I'll kill it for development forever. And that's kind of what I'm facing. And I'm not doing that for any reason other than to protect, you know, this land. I mean, I think the town needs that. Troutman's too good a town to have a suboptimal developments. I'm not just speaking of this one. I'm just saying I think the encroachment of development along Murdoch Road is a good place to stop. And I think the town can do better than that. And I think, in fairness to the neighbors, you can do better than that. And I think this was a mistake. And particularly with is it Wakefield and with Hoover Road there. I think as it creeps up, it squeezes in with those 2 areas, and it just doesn't fit. And so I would ask you to turn it down at least until you have time to review the planning document to see if that area being zoned as light industrial is an appropriate classification. I appreciate being able to come here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Lynn, do you know which is my property? Or can you share the pointer with me?
Not 100% sure. I believe this is the piece.
That's Jean's, so mine's the next one. Mine's opposite that little point. You know, the little point we talked about, the driveway.
Right here, these 2 pieces?
Okay.
That one right there. That's hers.
Yeah, I'm opposite the point of this 43 acres. I have a petition that was signed by the residents who live around this property. We are residential, except for that side, that west side that currently has industry. All of our area from Walmart going toward Hoover Road is residential. Duck Creek Road is residential.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Hoover Road is residential.
Excuse me, ma'am. Can you state your name for the record?
I'm sorry. Joyce Murdoch Felke. So, 3 sides of this proposed zoning change is residential. And we learned from the Walmart episode that it's not easy to convince the town council that we need to be protected, that we elected the people to be on the committees and the council because their responsibility is to protect the citizens. So we have developers coming in, making their money and leaving, and then that leaves us with a hodgepodge of not very well planned communities. And Lynn, can you put the pointer on that gray area that I asked about that was between Wakefield over to the right? Well, it's the future map. Do you have the future map? Okay. And now can you put your pointer where that little point is across from my front yard? Okay. All of this gray area that's on the future plan is now, all of this residential area is considered light industry on the future plan. That needs to be changed. Everyone in this area is between the Wakefield, you see where the blue is? The blue, the blue part. Lynn, if you can put your pointer on the blue part. All right, that's the Wakefield green belt. That's residential. And now put it on Hoover Road. That's residential. That's Barry lives right behind me. All that's residential. So why are we putting an industrial park in the middle of two major residential areas? Karen, what would you say? Is that good planning, or should we change it? We need that to be green. Every part of that little gray part is residential, except unless this zoning gets changed. All of our area, from Walmart to Hoover Road to Duck Creek to Wakefield, is all residential. And all land use studies show what happens when an industrial park comes into a residential area, Mark. What happens to your land value?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you know how significantly the reduction is in land value?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Barry, would you like an industrial park across your front yard?
No.
Randy, would you like an industrial park across from your front yard?
Not really.
And all these people do not either.
If you would give that to Kim, she'll keep it for the record. Thank you. Anyone else?
My name's Charlie King. I am a resident of Troutman, proudly for 17 years, going strong. Good evening to everybody here. It's nice to see some neighbors. And thank you to you guys, Mr. Chairman, and all the members. We do appreciate you. You got a tough job. And some of us really do understand that you walk a fine line. I really wasn't planning on being here. I had other plans tonight, but yesterday afternoon, I got a wonderful visit from Miss Judy. I'd never met her before, and I'm glad she came into my life, and we had a conversation out there, both of us freezing. And I enjoyed it, and I'm here in support of her. I'm also here in support of, I'm sorry, Gene, I don't, but she had spoke about him. So I'm going to try to do my very best to do things in kind of an orderly fashion. You guys have heard me speak before. A lot of what he said is stuff that I echoed over a year ago. And it falls on deaf ears. Now, I have my own personal opinions about things, but I know I've spoken to most of you, very intelligent people. I'm at a loss because I think the town is lost its way for whatever reason it's decided. That's just personal commentary. And I may have fallen behind a little bit here, but on this new portion here, where is the access in and out going to be? Uh-oh.
This is not a conditional zoning.
Where is the plan for the other section, which I apologize, I'm way behind the curve, but the section that was recently passed, where is that access?
Yeah, the only thing we are aware of, because the first section was conditional zoning, they'll have an entrance here on Nugget Lane. But this is not a conditional zoning, so no site plan was submitted.
So we have one entrance right now that we know of.
That is the only one that has been shared with us at this time.
So
yes.
basically, the answer to my question was yes, we have one.
Well, there's requirements in the UDO that they will have to comply with if approved.
I'm going to do this in probably not an organized fashion about things. I was glad to hear Ms. Judy bring up the fact of property values, because that scared me for a year now. And I can't get definitive answers. I've asked multiple people who are in the real estate profession. Sorry, I got a little bit of a sinus drip going tonight. I get a lot of unknown. But thankfully tonight, Mr. Taylor and others have agreed that property values are in jeopardy. That's really disturbing, because it's your guys' job to protect us. I may be a little bit different because I understand the town has to make money and the town has to move forward. But it has to do it in a justified and equal and fair way. If we're going to lose our asses, that ain't fair. 17 years. If you like, you can check. My taxes have been paid every year. Another little point of personal comment, so to speak. We've tried multiple times over to have conversations with these folks. I have reached out and I have spoke to Sam. I have spoke to Butch a little bit, and I apologize. I know we've spoke, but I don't recall your name. Tony. So we have spoken. I don't know who the gentleman is, but I'm just wondering if we can have a get-together. Maybe something that maybe, forgive me, because I'm just freewheeling here. Outside of the Roberts Law, let's throw some common sense into the cake batter here. Let's all get together and talk. We've tried. We hit the fence. We hit the wall. We crash. Because it all comes to this type of thing. We need to have conversation. If there's a way that our government can come together with us and them, we can be happy. Infrastructure. I'm curious, is it there? Is there enough infrastructure in the town and in that portion of town to support a project of this magnitude? You're over 100 acres, if my math is... Yeah, I'd say it's fair to say it's over 100 acres. That's quite a bit of utility draw. Do we got it? And I'm asking you guys. Okay. Is it possible that we prove this model works? I know Tony has a very successful business, but I don't know what his background is in development. Again, if we were to have conversations, it would maybe make us a little bit at ease. Again, I don't know the gentleman. I know Butch has been involved in multiple developments, but I'd certainly love to just get a better feel. get a warmer feeling for what we're dealing with. Sam, jury's out. I don't know. The other comment is, why don't we just prove that that one section, that this model is going to work? We're going 1, 2, 3. Why don't we get one under control? How many of you folks get up out of bed and jump out with 2 feet on the ground and move both of them at the same time? Or do you move one at a time? Let's get this model proven first. Let's make sure it's going to suit the need, it's going to please you, and it's going to work with us. Just a thought. Let's baby step it. Something that kind of bothers me personally. We talked extensively with council members. These men have as well. Had conversations where at least 2, if not more, council persons agreed that if there was an expansion, that there should and will be conditions to include a buyout or something similar. I got it recorded. And I got 2 councilmen agreeing to it. That went like a lightning bolt. Nobody said a word. Now we're up for another one, so I'm going to bring it up again. We got railroaded by council. My whole point of view on this whole thing is, let's be fair. Again, both sides of the fence. I'm not going to beat that to death because everybody in the room knows. Town needs to move forward. Residency, fine. Let's play fair. Council promised 2 members, which I have recorded, saying, yes, this will be conditional. Over their heads, gone. Because the day that we all sat down to make this all work, we got railroaded. Take that maybe as opinion. I take it as fact, because I had promises. I'll close it with a couple of personal comments. Bear with me, I just want to condense my thoughts into words. I'm a bit shocked because I thought that government works to find solutions. I thought that government brings people together. My personal feeling is some of the conditions that we asked for, very few of them, to give it something a little more tangible. On a 10 scale of things, I think our conditions were met with a number 2. I don't have an axe to grind. Now let me make this clear. With Tony, or with you, Butch, or with Sam, I want to have an understanding. And I'm going to say something a little bit different than what Jessica said, so please forgive me. But I feel that the construction that has been taking place has been in a very orderly fashion, and the fellas seem to shut down at the same time each night, so they're respecting us. And I think that's a wonderful thing, because it shows a hand of good faith. That's me. Don't you get mad at me. And green light every that comes through here, you lose control. And we get affected. And that's a sad day. And I feel very sorry for folks like this, because I'm here for 17. But like the gentleman said, it's generations. And, you know, they're doing their thing, but we live there, so we see people. And these generations are pissed that they're getting walked on. I'll leave it at that, because I'm going to start to get off the trail. Thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Quickly.
I don't know if anyone mentioned the traffic, but with Walmart, that's more than we can handle already. There are times when I go out in my front yard and the traffic is backed up from the curve at Walmart all the way over to Duck Creek Road. If there's a school bus stopping at those apartments down there, it's that long. So how are we going to handle more traffic? Murdoch Road is just a little two-lane road without even a shoulder. And with all the truck traffic we have right now, and everyone coming and going right up across from SHA, which is very close to the Walmart, how are they going to manage all of that coming and going traffic? You know, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the work you all do.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. I will now close the public comment time. And board, does the board have any?
It was an email.
Oh,
was an
is there any emails? None? Okay.
I got an email. That's fine. I thought it was from Miss Judy. But, there's, somebody was a Murdoch, had been in the property for 240 years. They have had generations, in the community. Thought it should be kept residential, in a nutshell. I will be more than happy to forward that to you as soon as I get to the house. I want to say, did you email us?
The email, did you send
Send
the
an
email
email?
to the planning board members? Did you send an email to the planning board?
Letters of all of you, but online, on the website, it's not updated. So probably everybody on the last planning and zoning board except Mary got an email today. How many of you got my letter?
I got an email that said that
Yeah.
you've been around for 240, not you personally, excuse me
Yeah.
for saying it that way. Excuse me, Lord forgive me.
The original Murdoch property was a colonial land grant in 1764.
Yeah, it's 240,
My grandfather's property, Albert Alexander Murdoch, Esquire, owned the property from where the Rimmer property touches the ESC Park,
mhm.
from that point to the Amity Hill Road at the interstate. So all of Murdoch Road follows the pattern of where his farm was located. So when my father built our house 75 years ago, Murdoch Road was a little dirt road. You know, it just went through the neighborhood, and there were only 4 major farms on it. So, you know, we'd love to preserve as much as we can. We've been here longer than the Troutmans. You know, the town was named after people that came after us. So please consider the historic preservation of our neighborhood because it's beautiful property. I have old growth oak trees that are over 200 years old. And across the street from me, Jean has some beautiful woods that also border this new proposed zoning. So what do you think is going to happen to all those trees that are on that proposed zoning if it gets changed to industrial? They're going to be clear cut. So we really need to preserve more in Troutman. We do a good job of bringing in all of our tract home developments, but how many really first-class houses are being built in Troutman? I don't mean to make that sound like I don't like what they're putting in the tract homes. I love that colonial crossing over there. Somebody did a good job with that. And I love how Wakefield is going to be great for our community. And those are really well planned, but we can't keep allowing the sprawl that's happening on Murdoch Road. That's where we really need your leadership. So please help preserve our neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do y'all have any comments, questions,
Oh, yeah, and concerns.
and concerns? Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, my first one is, I'm just concerned that this is not a conditional rezoning. I mean, it definitely starting to encroach on homes, and there's no protections, no guarantees.
Correct, plus it's combining two other major properties.
Correct. And, yeah.
Is there enough, the way that point is there enough for a road connection in that curve, or would the state even allow such? In the, between the two S curves?
Nope.
Oh.
No. And I mean, I look at it, and I'm gonna say it nicely, is when the first portion came in, it was going to be like a industrial park, I think is what they were including for that. And that was gonna be a simple industrial park, which I thought was, okay. But then they acquired the additional part, the backside, and made it heavy industrial. So they've gotta have.
Light.
There's all of
It's
it's all
light.
all of
It's all
it's
light.
okay,
It's
I'm
all
sorry.
light.
But my
Front's
question
heavy.
is, it's all about timing. If your timing is where you get a piece of property and you're starting to develop it and you've got plans for it, then you move forward with it. I'm afraid that, look at the Onsrud property on the other side. They're finally building a part of that. That was an industrial park back in almost 20 years ago. And it's still vacant beside the fairgrounds. That's an industrial park. Julian Place over at 42 is an industrial park. I think a dentistry.
It's not an industrial park. You've said that before in other meetings. It's not. I was very involved with John Kinley, and I met with DOT, and we put together the Julian Place property there. I've sold every lot in there for the Onsruds. It's never an industrial park. It's retail. It's got an Arby's there. It's got an Exxon. It's not an industrial park.
Currently, you are correct, sir. I did the driveway permit for that. I know what we came in through because you did it as two cul-de-sacs in the middle, and then you did it as two parcels, and then you accidentally on purpose combined it. I know what you did, and I'm pretty sure that that's what worked out, and that's fine. I'm just saying that the opportunity there is for that to be an industrial site. I'm also including that exit 42 has a lot of amenities there to include industrial, access to the interstate, access to utilities, access to everything else. So the potential for a development, you've got the logistics center at Oswald Amity there. You have from Oswald Amity to quarter of a mile, half a mile, you've got 7 homes there. The rest of it is vacant. Where you've got this here, you've got 10 homes adjacent to it right now. So to me, my personal opinion is that this should remain residential, and you look at the 21 corridor from exit 42 going south and north to be more industrial. I mean, you got the school and the residential around the school on both sides. From there to the north up into the town limits, there would be more behoove the town to be growth and smart growth in that area. The Onsrud Place over on Murdoch Road beside the fairgrounds is vacant. It's water, sewer, power there, and it has not been developed since 20 years ago.
They're asking $250,000 an acre, and that might have something to do with it.
And also, this right here is $6,000 an acre because you want to buy residential and rural instead of building the industrial. Furthermore, sir, this is our comment section, not yours.
Well,
Thank you.
let everybody else talk.
You had an opportunity to speak, sir, and you didn't. So, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Comment down, you let her speak for 10 minutes. So, either run it one way or the other, be fair with it.
We closed it. We closed it.
And then you let other people speak after you close it.
I suggest we let him speak. Could he go up to the
Mr. Chairman, the public comment section has closed, so you do need to, stop the comment from the audience.
Yes, now, if you're asking him something, you
I'm
can
not,
ask
no.
him back and forth.
I apologize. I should be not speaking directly to you. But what I'm saying is that this parcel would be better conducive as residential and rural than it would be, in my opinion, rather than light industrial.
And I have a question, and Andrew might be the person to ask, I don't know. There was some sort of a dot on the line, or you may know about it. A
Realignment?
to the interstate
Mhm.
that goes through that, I believe.
It has been, I think with the joint venture between the town of Troutman and Statesville, that had been, not resolved, but,
Removed.
dissolved.
Was it? I
Mhm.
don't know.
Did you say dissolved?
Dissolved. There was a plan to take where Duck Creek and, Hoover, taking it and blending it through that section and coming back almost to where the dark gray and the light gray meet on the north side, kind of aligning it back and tying in right there and making that the road to where it was on the back side of those 4 lots or 5 lots there and kind of tied in down that way. That was on the land use plan and thoroughfare plan that was re-up. Got taken off, did it not?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Andrew, has that been removed? I don't remember seeing.
I think it was removed.
Okay. So there is no even thoughts about what we're gonna do about this, as far as better connection to the interstate. That's eventually gonna have to happen. And I would feel much better if this was conditional, because it does affect a lot of people around it, and there could be conditions put on it. If you're gonna ask for it, it don't have to be straight rezoning. It can be conditional, even though it's not required. It can be. But we can't ask you to do anything conditional. You have to ask for that. But I'm not, with what's there, it affects too much, and there's too many questions that we can't get answers on because it's not conditional. I do realize that it's in the future land use plan as light industrial, but that don't mean that it can be light industrial with no conditions.
Or a community meeting for all the people who are going to be impacted by it.
I mean, they can ask. I mean, you can ask for anything in this. I know we just make recommendations. Town council makes the decisions. But if it was conditional, then some of this could be resolved, or maybe, I don't know.
Could be.
Because we have no idea what the real impact is. Anyone else have any comments or questions, or any questions for the applicants, or? Okay. Is there a motion regarding rezoning RZ 23-08?
With regard to case number RZ-23-08, I make a motion to deny the request.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we need a motion regarding consistency statement of RZ 23-08.
With regard to case number RZ-23-08, rezoning to light industrial is inconsistent as it is currently presented with our future land use map.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you all very much, and town council meeting will be the 14th of December, so everyone get to speak to town council. Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
No, we're not
No.
ready.
Other business.
Say something. Excuse me, we have other items on our agenda. Excuse me.
We,
We have other items on our agenda.
We still have a meeting.
we still have a little bit more.
You can
You
leave.
can go if you want.
Will this go to the council?
Yes.
Will.
Yes.
Yes.
When will that be?
December the 14th.
Okay.
Okay, under other business, discussion of request to cancel December 25th, 2023 Planning Board meeting due to Christmas holiday and lack of agenda items. And I'm gonna, zoning cases update, I'll turn it over to Lynn, you can take both
The
of them.
first item, I don't know that we really need to discuss, because I don't think any of us will be here on December 25th. But fortunately, we don't have to move the meeting because we don't have any other items. So I just wanted to let you all know that and put it on an agenda so anyone listening tonight would know. But we will post that and get that out that meeting's canceled. But just a zoning update, everything that we heard last month, the rezoning case on the property across from Town Hall here, as well as the text amendments were approved. So all of those items were approved by council. The text amendments had to do with Board of Adjustment items, so we were glad that those were taken care of and things that will help the Board of Adjustment run more smoothly as we go forward. We brought it up a couple times in this meeting, but I did want to mention too that we did receive a proposal from Kimley Horn to for on-call services for our TIA process and transportation consulting. I'm really looking forward to that. They're going to come to the meeting on the 14th, excuse me, not the 14th, but the 11th at the agenda briefing and present that to council. And hopefully they will approve that at their meeting on the 14th, and we can get some sort of contract in place by the first of the year. But what we're really hoping to accomplish with that is to have a group that works for the town and manages that TIA process for us, so that the developers aren't creating those TIAs themselves, but the town is doing it with the developer paying for it. We're also hoping that they can give us guidance on, future roadway projects, as well as helping us coordinate all of these TIA improvements that have been required, because we will start to see construction on those. And we've had so many projects happening in the same place, and there's so many different pieces happening with those. So we just really are looking forward to having them hopefully come on board and help us out. So I'll keep you all posted on that, but that's all.
Could I ask the question? Mark can probably answer it. I understand that the TIA is just going to talk about improvements, but it seems to me that the developers put something in the system, and we can't do anything because it's got to go to council. And if it's not right, we put the burdens on council to do it. I mean, is there any way that we can get some of this stuff fixed before it gets into the pipeline, so to speak?
So you want to, get the TIAs to us before?
Well, I'm just saying, it seems like we're at the mercy of the developer. When he compared, or whoever compared the one tonight with the adjacent one that was 4.99 or whatever, I believe that was an exception. See, when we set precedents in past cases, it's harder to defend the people, the town, down the road. And I was just curious, is this just the way civic government works, or?
Well, I mean, every rezoning case stands on its own merit. So when someone brings a request to rezone, whether it's conditional, whether it's traditional, that case stands on its own merit. So it doesn't matter. I just like to point out the fact that this was rezoned and that's what the density is here. But you all have the ability to recommend, and council has the ability to approve anything that they feel like is in the best interest of the town as a whole. So that's something to keep in mind.
So we just don't have the authority to say, hey, can you come back with a little bit more information in 30 days?
Unfortunately,
It has
the
to
planning
go.
board doesn't, but the council does. But you all do have the ability to do what you did tonight and make recommendations, asking the applicant to amend their application and add those conditions. And then we will present that as part of your recommendation to council, and then council can do, that they make that final decision as to whether or not to incorporate that. And the applicant having heard what your recommendation was, my experience has been that usually they go back and try to incorporate those things before they get to the town council hearing.
Thank you.
And, I mean, we don't really have that option. We didn't have on the second one because it's not conditional. They're not asking for conditional, and we can't pressure them to do that.
And that was their choice. They felt like LI would work for them. So that is what they requested. And so that is, they have every right to do that as well.
Right, but we really can't do what we did with the first one because of that. Right. Because it's not conditional. Although they can come back and ask for conditional light industrial. Any district
depending on what council does.
They could if they wanted to.
Correct. They would have to wait the 12 months, but they could, yes.
Well, no, they could say if they feel like it's not going to go through, they could stop and come back and do that if they wanted to, but we're not allowed to really pressure them to do that. That's my understanding. So that's a yes or no on that.
Whether or not council could tell them that that's what they preferred, but the applicant would have to agree to it.
Right.
So if council said, but you all, no, the planning board does not have that authority.
Okay. Anything else before we adjourn?
No, sir, that was all.
Is there a motion to adjourn? And maybe that's something that can be incorporated with the new process. That might be a good time to see if that would work.
Well, if we're doing the TIA, if somebody working for us is doing the TIA, they're gonna have it to us on time. Right. But when they know the town council worked all day at their real job and they drop it off at 5 o'clock, I'm not saying nobody goes home and goes over with a fine tooth comb, but I can't help from feeling though some of this is done on purpose. But that's not pointing fingers or anything like that. I don't mean that like that. It's just.
It's kind of like the guy, the first project tonight. He didn't tell us anything. He wants us to approve this thing, but he didn't tell us anything. And then when you ask for something, he go, oh, well.
Let's please remember, too, that this is on the record.
Sorry about that.
Well, Lynn did go over it, so.
We haven't adjourned?
No, we have not adjourned.
Incorrect.
But hopefully that'll be, will you please maybe incorporate, see what they say about that, and at the same time, maybe see how that works? Because
Yes.
we would like to have the same information so we can make the same kind of decisions if they got something different than we got. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.